What's happening, guys? Scott Bancroft here. Welcome back to another video. Let's kick off the weekend with a quick video on how to remove objects in Adobe Photoshop. Super simple technique to remove those unwanted and distracting objects in your photos. So let's dive on into Photoshop now and remove some of these objects that I took in a couple of photos on my last trip to Queenstown. So we've just loaded up into Photoshop now and we have two images. The first image is on the road to Milford Sound from Queenstown, and the second image is on the cruise through the Milford Sound as we approach one of the major waterfalls. With our first image, I've already cropped it into a 4x5 image. There was a lot of empty space on the right hand side of the photo, and I just wanted to focus on the road as a leading line into the tunnel with the avalanche on the left hand side. The first thing that catches my eye apart from the avalanche and the mountain range is these bright shiny little road patches on the road where they've obviously gone and fixed up cracks in the road. It is completely personal preference how much you remove from a photo. If you want to keep it as natural as possible so it is a snapshot in time of when you were there, by all means don't remove any objects. By my style of photos, I do like to remove a couple of distracting elements so you can focus on the subject that I want you to focus on. The first tool we're going to be using today is the spot healing brush. You can find it on the left hand side of the menu here, or you can press the hotkey J to activate it. Before I start editing onto the base photo, I'll always create new layers in Photoshop so the edits are non-destructive. So by pressing Ctrl-Shift-N, it creates a new layer, and let's label it Spot Healing for the Spot Healing tool. With the Spot Healing tool, make your brush size a little bit larger than the object you want to remove so it completely covers it. And then it is as simple as just coloring over the object you want to remove, and it will remove it from the scene. This is an excellent technique to use if you have a simple background such as a road or a sky or any uniform color. It's going to take all the pixels around it within that dark area that you colored in, and it's going to merge it into that one spot. That's why you want the brush size to be a little bit larger. I'm going to speed edit through the rest of this and clean up the road, and then we're going to move on to the next technique. Alrighty, that's all done. Let's go and hide that layer to see the difference it's actually made. So that's the adjustments hidden, and you can see all the spots on the road. And then we can apply corrections and you can see the distracting elements are now gone. The next tool we're going to be using is the clone stamp tool, and you can access it on the left hand side of the panel below the brush tool, or you can press S as a hotkey. Again, we're going to make a new layer by pressing Ctrl-Shift-N, and let's label it clone stamp. For this tool, I have my flow set to around 50%, which gives me excellent control over the brush. I'll select my brush size to something reasonable and around the same size as the object I'm removing. If it is a larger object, obviously you're not going to be able to use such a large brush, but just something that is reasonable. Now, a little bit different to the spot healing tool, which did it all automatically, we actually have to select the target pixels that we want to clone. So press Option and it will give you a little crosshair, and you click where you want it to replicate. And then it's as simple as brushing over the object you want to remove. And I find this a lot easier to use when you have contrasting borders, like we have the snow, the grass, as well as the gravel. You can align where that boundary is, and sometimes you'll find that the spot healing tool doesn't know where those boundaries are, so the clone stamp tool is excellent for this use. And there we go, you can see us brushing over the object and that safety cone has been removed. I found this to be the most accurate tool when removing objects from a background, and it's the one I used in my last video if you did watch through till the end into the speed edit. I find it easier to remove objects from a complicated background using the clone stamp tool. It does look quite pixelated at the moment, but that's because I've zoomed in 600% so I can see the safety cones nice and clear, so I can make sure I remove all of them. Alrighty, the speed editing's done. Let's toggle that layer on and off. So the clone stamp layer comes off and the safety cones are visible. And we put the clone stamp layer back on and all the cones are removed. Let's group both of these layers into a folder, that way we can toggle them on and off both at the same time. Now we can toggle it off and all the distractions are there. Toggling back on, we have a nice clean image. Alrighty, moving across into the second photo, we're on the Milford Sound now and we have a distracting boat that is heading towards the waterfall that I was trying to take a photo of. It looks like quite a large object in the photo, and if I had to use the clone stamp tool or the spot healing, it would take a lot of time and wouldn't be as neat. So Photoshop has a super easy way to remove large objects, and that's called ContentAware Fill. It is aware of the content around the selection and it will fill it with that essentially. So the way to do this is we're going to create a new layer, which is Ctrl-Shift-N, and we're going to label it ContentAware Fill. Now the shortcut that I use to replicate or merge any visible layers onto this new layer is a bit of a mouthful, but it is Command Option Shift E, and I'll pop that down below in the slide so you can see it as well. The reason we've put ContentAware Fill onto a new layer is so we have a non-destructive layer to edit onto. I don't want it to bake it into our original image and then we're stuck with the edits that Photoshop gives us. So now with our layers all set up, let's select the lasso tool, which is near the top on the toolbar, or the hotkey L, and let's create a selection around the object we want to remove, which in this case is the red boat. It doesn't have to be super neat as long as the boat is within the selection. We're now going to go up to Edit in the top toolbar and select ContentAware Fill, and it will load up the ContentAware Fill menu. Alrighty, our ContentAware Fill panel has loaded up, and you can see that the green overlay in the left-hand image is the pixels that are being assessed, and that's what's going to fill in our selection. So we can see that Photoshop has selected a bit of the cliffs as well as the water to fill in our selection. Looking across to the right, the preview panel shows us what the photo is going to look like, and it actually doesn't look too bad. All we have to do is replace that misty water, and then the photo is good to go. Now with the tools that we learned in the last photo, we can use this to replace the pixels in this photo. You're not only removing objects, you can also add in pixels or add in detail that might have been removed. For this, it's quite a complicated fill because we've got the ocean, the mist, as well as the rocks, so I'm going to be using the clone stamp tool. So pressing S as the hotkey or selecting it in the left-hand toolbar, we can bring up the clone stamp tool's brush. Pressing and holding Option, we can select our target pixels where we want it to replicate from, and now we can just brush it into that missing area, that nice, beautiful, misty water. So let's unhide the ContentAware Fill layer and we can see our red boat. And let's hide that boat again with a new cliff face and nice, smooth, misty water. For someone that hasn't seen that photo before, they wouldn't know there was a boat there in the first place, and that's exactly how powerful Photoshop is. And there we have it. We've gone through 3 different techniques of how to remove objects in Photoshop. We've got the clone stamp tool, which is used for complicated backgrounds, the spot healing tool for simple removals, as well as the ContentAware Fill feature in the edit section of Photoshop. And that's it for today. Super simple video to shoot you into the weekend. If you found this video interesting, please hit that like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, or if you want to come back and see more, ring the bell to be notified, or see me on Instagram. I'll pop a story up every single time there's a new video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.